Welcome to another video. My name is Guilherme and I'm here with my game nation. This is a new devlog, and yes, I'm that crazy guy on YouTube that is doing a game engine from scratch and planning to release it. And I want your help for two things in this video. So before I start and showcase what I did new in my game engine, let me explain that. The first thing that I want your help is to bring this project to life. So I need, if you always wanted to have like a game engine that is custom made for your needs, and you can, this is kind of the time that you can join the development of the game engine by testing it, using it, and suggesting new features. So I'm on my Discord server, like talking to people about the engine and receiving suggestions and stuff like that. So if you feel like that's for you, this is a 3D game engine that is scriptable in Python, and very soon it will be available for visual scripting for you that hate programming somehow and want to do advanced games. And well, I'm enjoying a lot the development. Let me open the project here while I talk. This is a startup project, there's nothing here, but this is a 3D game engine, and I'm listening to a lot of feedbacks and making this thing get better as people use it and suggest stuff. So that once I said that, if you want to be part of that and suggest stuff, I'll leave the link to my Discord server in the description. And the other thing that I want your help, and that one is very important. So I do have a company here in Brazil called Uniday Studio. So it's the name of my company. It's literally a trademark. I have like literally a business with this name. It's okay, no problem. And when I had to put a name in this game engine, I immediately think, well, I'm gonna call it Uniday Engine. The problem with that is some people is complaining like, oh my god, this is very similar to Unity or Unreal or Unigine. So there's a lot of game engine that starts with Uni something, and especially in English, Uniday and Unity are very similar, pronounced in a very similar way. This is not the same thing in Portuguese, which is where my company exists. So that's why no one complained about that. But I'm kind of thinking, should I rename it to something else, like to not Uniday Engine? What do you think? Leave in the comments. I do have an idea for a new name for this game engine. It's Hush Engine. I don't like it as I like Uniday Engine because, of course, it's it's the name that I've been using for years on the internet and my business and so on. So I kind of prefer Uniday Engine, but I'm afraid of people getting upset or confused about this very similar name with the other game engines, basically, because we have a lot of game engines. So leave in the comment what you think, okay? So once I said that, let me start with the devlog. So I'm not going to do a tutorial or a tour over all the features of the game engine because it's still in development, and I already did that in the past. And the next video that I'm planning to release on this channel will be probably me doing a small game, a small test scene with the engine. So it's gonna serve as a tutorial and stuff like that, and a tour, of course, for those who are interested. So this is what I added in version 0.9.4. So I made an itch.io page to host the game engine for those who are interested. And if you don't know nothing about this, I need to talk about the roadmap, because right now we are in version 0.9.4, as I just said. And what you need to know is that until Uniday Engine 1.0, which is very soon, the engine is still in alpha testing. That's why I'm not sharing this everywhere. So I created an itch.io page with some placeholder stuff, but it's just to make it easier for you to download, and the link is available in my Discord server. And things may change. This is the whole point of the alpha, and I'm changing stuff, so I may broke something in the way. Okay, so what I did in this new version, the first thing that I did that is very important is a brand new UI refactor. So now the UI is way more simpler. I mean, the elements here that you can see inside the transforms, I do have like the X, Y, and Z naming here, prefixes. I have some suffixes as well. For example, the position is measured in meters here in my game engine. So you can see like the z-axis here of this cube is 4.83 meters, because there's an M here to indicate that. The angle, there's an... Well, anyways, there's a lot of new UI stuff to make it way more easy to understand, to read, and stuff like that. I'm going to talk about this very soon, but the file system here is completely new as well. The way you select like the components here, the meshes and stuff like that, I refactored that as well. Can then edit a lot of stuff here, but the UI is completely new. You can hold Control and use the mouse wheel to zoom in and zoom out. This was a request, so now we can make it very, very, very small, almost impossible to read, and very, very, very big, almost impossible to read as well. So I don't remember the default size, and it's gonna annoy me if I don't have the default size. I think that's that's about right. But anyways, so now the UI, it's much better and pleasant to the eyes. The next huge feature is Bitmasking. What is Bitmasking? If you select like a mesh, actually a material, so let me edit the material, you're gonna have the visibility mask here. What is this? Well, this is basically a way to say like this material, this specific material belongs to the first bit of the mask, to bit 0 here. And what I can do with this is filter what is being rendered to the screen or what have shadows based on this mask. So this is the first usability stuff of this mask. Let me make the material a little bit darker so we can see it a little bit better. Maybe if I change the metallic, okay, it's better. But the point here, let me make it brighter. Here we go. The point here is that if I edit my scene, so there's an option to edit the scene here, and it's gonna appear in the properties tab, and go to my camera, I have the render mask. So if you remember correctly, I was setting this material, which is the default material, to the layer, to the bit 0. And if I go to my camera render mask and disable this, you can see that everything is gone now. The ground and the player and this cube have the same material. That's why everything is not being rendered. But if I change, let me create a new material here real quick. So I just made a new material. Let me select my cube and drag and drop. So now my cube do have a different material. And if I go back to my scene and disable the render mask, the ground is now gone because that was the material of the ground. So if I select my cube again, edit my material and make it belong to the layer, for example, 2, and I can edit my scene and disable this, and you'll see that my cube is no longer being rendered by the camera. You can see though that it still have shadows because a sun, where's my main shadow caster of the scene, do have a shadow mask, and I can disable it, meaning that I can have an object, for example, with no shadows. Like this cube do not have shadows now, and I can have a shadow with no objects. I can create a ghost and stuff like that using the shadow mask, using the bit mask actually. And this is useful to some other stuff. For example, if I go Shift A and add, let me add an empty, which is basically an entity with a transform component. And let me right click here in the transform. And by the way, this is new. Now we can right click to add a component. We can right click here in this scene graph. Oops, still work in progress. So feels like you can't. But you can right click here. You can right click in the asset browser to create stuff. This is new. And let me add rendering decal. So a decal is basically, I need a material for that, so let me create a material, new asset, let me create a new material, let me rename that to decal, and let me make it red, just to be a little bit more dramatic. So let me select again my empty, and drag and drop my decal material. And basically a decal is something that you can project based on some stuff like in geometry and stuff like that. So here is a decal and it's being projected. Let me disable angle fading. I will explain that in a second. But right now my decal is being projected to the ground and is being projected to the cube as well. But let's say that this is blood and I don't want blood in a moving object because, well, I don't want this to happen. So I only want my bloat to be affecting the ground. But if you remember, my cube do have a different mask than my ground. So if I select my decal here and go to my overlay mask, I can disable this decal from being rendered in my cube. So now the decal is only affecting the ground, and I can do the other thing as well. I can disable the decal in the ground and enable it in the cube. So that's very useful for rendering stuff, but that's also useful, and I just saved the project, that's why I have this pop-up. That's also useful for physics, because if I add a rigid body, I'm not gonna demonstrate that, okay? So if I add rigid body, and I will drag and drop my mesh here, the mesh component, so my rigid body gonna have a mesh. Oh, by the way, I have a physics visualization. I can disable the mesh, and you're gonna have, by default, the rigid body have like a box collision. But anyways, if I play the game and select another object, I guess. Oh, of course, it needs to be dynamic, because a rigid body basically defines a static object by default. If I want this object to fall, I need it to be dynamic, and I need to add as well a rigid body component to the ground, and let me make it a mesh. And now if I play the game, I should be able to see this cube falling. Okay, it's a little bit glitchy right now in the preview because, well, it's work in progress, but you have this cube falling. But what is cool about it is that you can define the collision masks of this object. For example, it belongs to the mask 1. Let me say that. It on this cube, of course, my face cam is on top. Let me remove my face cam, sorry. It belongs to the collision mask 1, so I added it here. And do not collide with the collision mask 1. In other words, and by the way, the ground, the plane here, belongs to, by default, to the first line of masks. So this cube can belong to the first mask and do not collide with itself. In other words, if I add a clone, if I add like another cube that I can duplicate with Shift D, this cube will not collide with this other cube. So if I start the simulation, I can press F5 to that. You can see that both cubes do not collide with itself. They are actually inside the other. That's because of my mask. Okay, so you may want to do that or not. It's up to you, but it's possible, and that's amazing. Okay, so let me go back with my face scan and go to the next feature. And since I was talking about the decals, and we do have a decal here, let me go ahead and do some review of the decal components, because I did some improvement. Before that, let me add a new mesh here, just a cube. Oops, I want to move it, not scale it. So it's a normal mesh. Let me replace this mesh with a cylinder. I can drag and drop everything. And let's say that I want to add, and let me duplicate this object just for the test and put it here, okay? Let's say that I want to add snow to my game. So I want this decal to be snow, okay? I can sort the decals, by the way, it's not a huge deal. I can reduce or increase the opacity of my decal, so it may affect nothing and may affect a lot. But let's say that I want to use this decal as snow. So let me change this to a white, a very bright white. Let me change like the roughness. I'm gonna do some random stuff here. Okay, don't worry a lot. Let's say that this is no, okay, and I want it covering all my map. So I'm gonna do it. Let me reset the rotation of this object, and it's covering all the map, as you can see here. But there's a problem. Snow, it falls from the top to the bottom, so it does not make sense to have snow, for example, here, like behind this this object here. It does not make sense below this object. I'm sorry. It doesn't make sense to have it on top and maybe a little bit in the edge, but not like this much of snow. Everything is covered with snow right now. But what it can do with a decal now is activate this angle fading. And what is this? If you enable it, you can see immediately that I do not have snow below this object or in these sides. But if you go to the top, you can see that I do have snow. Let me change the color of this material to red so you can see a little bit better what is going on. So it's red now. Can adjust the settings, but it's okay. And you can see here that it's fading out as my angle, as the angle of this surface changes. So that's very good to create snow, maybe water and stuff like that. So take a look at that. This is happening because of my decal. If I reduce the opacity up to 0, well, there's nothing here. But if I increase the opacity, you can see that I do have snow on top of this object, and of this object we do not have snow here because of my layer mask. But if I enable it, you're gonna have on top, not be below the object. But that's a cool way to create advanced graphics, and that's very basic and easy to use in my game engine, which I like a lot. Okay, another cool feature is that now you can disable or enable an entity. So if you go here in the scene graph, you have this eye icon, and if I click here to disable it, it will no longer be part of the scene. And this means that if this entity have logic or childs or a rigid body component, it will not gonna run. Okay, so for example, this, let me select this cube here. It do have a physics, so if I go to the physics visualization, oops, work in progress here. Let me disable it. Yeah, I messed up with my mesh. Anyway, still work in progress. All right, he started my project, so it's back. But this cube here, if I disable it and go to the physics visualization, you can see that this cube is no longer in the scene. Oh, it's actually in the scene, but it's disabled. So you're not gonna run logic, you're not gonna run physics, you're not gonna be hindered and stuff like that. But the advantage of that is that you can, like, for example, have a snow and you want to disable the snow, but the snow is still there, just waiting for you to be activated, or you are running a cutscene, for example, in your game, and you don't want to have enemies messing around while the cutscene is running. So you can disable the enemy, run the cutscene, and when you're done with the cutscene, you can enable the enemy again, and it's gonna work just fine. And by the way, I said that, but I'm gonna say it again. You can parent an object with another object. So we have, for example, this cylinder here is now a parent of this one, and this is a child of this one, and you can disable this cylinder and you're gonna disable the child as well. Okay, and by the way, this was a feature request. You can drag and drop an object to remove its parent, or you can drag and drop the object to itself. This is how Unreal does, if I remember correctly, and you can do it as well. So that's way more intuitive to have in a game engine. I did some stuff in the UI elements as well, because if you wanna add like user interface to your project, you can add an interface UI element here, and that's an UI element on top of the game itself. You can change, of course, the style of this thing, like the alpha, the blur background, to make the backgrounds feels blurry. Can make it black, and of course it's gonna appear here just like you can expect. And right now, if you duplicate this object, and there is anchoring as well, you can anchor this object to its parent and stuff like that. But you can select you can sort which child we're going to be handled first. Unfortunately, this is not a global layer sorting. So you have here in the layer. This only affects the childs of certain UI elements. So if I want this to be effective, I need to duplicate this UI element. Still work in progress, so it's still a little bit annoying to select and change stuff. Let me do this, and let me make it maybe green. And I'm going to reduce the opacity of both elements. Here you go. And you can select the layer to be drawn this object. Alright, actually it's not working. I just break this somehow in the process, but well, it will be available, and that's also a great opportunity to show the anchoring in action, because I did these two objects, and I can define custom anchoring, width and height for my UI elements. I'm gonna improve the UI editor very soon, because right now it's a little bit half and sometimes it does not work, as you can see here. I can disable, by the way, if I don't want to view my UI on top of my game, I can disable it, but I'm gonna work on that, don't worry, it's gonna be improved very soon. And the last thing that I want to show you in this video is the new asset browser, because I completely redid this. Now it's much better, by the way, it's much more responsive. The folders will try to fit in the area of my asset browser. And of course, as you can see here, you can have folders, and you can put folders inside folders and stuff like that. You can organize your project like this. You can make, for example, you have this cube in the mesh folder, you can right click and move the parent directory, and if I go ahead here, I do have my cube, and I can go back and move it to my folder. Oops, I think it's not working at the moment, no idea why, but again, as I said, this is still work in progress, and there's a lot of things to fix, and until version 1.0, it's still alpha and things may not work as expected. But I want to have this folder system. I think I can select and drag and drop a folder. No, I'm gonna fix that as well, but I can create a new folder at the moment. I can right click, I can rename it to something, and in theory, as you saw, you can make move an asset to the parent directory, and you should be able to move it to the folder itself. It's just not fixed yet at the moment, okay? And of course, you can delete something, you can duplicate something from here. For example, I duplicated this cylinder, this mesh. I can do a lot of stuff. I can change vertices and polygons here. This is something that I added. It's not very useful right now, but you can do this if you want for some reason. Let me just for fun put this here. Let me make this mesh, and now my mesh is modified. But anyways, I'm working on that. I'm gonna improve the thumbnails as well. So there's a lot of stuff that I wanna improve, but it's coming along, guys. It's coming together, and I'm very excited to see what I'm gonna do next in this engine. So that's it for this video. Hope you enjoy it. And again, if you're not a member of my Discord, please consider joining, because well, there's a lot of cool people out there, and I'm listening to feedback to make this engine better and better. So that's it, and I see you in the next video.